Bentley at the 1. Bentley has an angle, and he's got just the kicker to beat. Bentley at the 30, the 25, the 15, a 99-yard kickoff return.
Over the top. Oh, stuffed by Bertrand. Yikes.
Now it's time for Illini Drive, your home on the way home for Illini sports every Monday at 6. Only on Champaign's Alternative, WPGU 107.1 FM.
Joey Gelman, host, Chicago, Illinois.
Steve Bourbon, co-host, St. Charles, Illinois.
Sam Sherman, co-host, Wilmette, Illinois.
Jeff Omer, social media guru, Naperville, Illinois.
Torrance Surreal, producer, Shy City, baby.
Welcome into Illini Drive. This is your home on the way home for Illini Sports every Monday at 6 on Champaign's Alternative, WPGU 107.1. I'm Joey Gelman alongside the A-team of Torrance Surreal, Jeff Omer, Steve Bourbon, and Sam Sherman. Follow us on Twitter. What?
What's going on? Ask about our day, man.
Yeah. All right.
I need
Well,
that,
I wanted the rundown, and then I can
okay.
be a normal human again.
Oh, okay.
You like the proper things. You like the robot.
What are we talking about today? Sorry, what's our Twitter? And then what are we
Our
talking
Twitter
about?
handle is at Illini Drive. Text line is up as well. 217-337-1071. 217-337-1071. So, how are you guys?
I don't have anything to say about my day. No, I'm good.
I just want to add my 2 cents in.
The fact that it's cold and bitter and evil outside doesn't make it a lot of fun.
I'm wearing a sweater today, so is Torrance.
Good.
Yeah.
That means it's really winter when you wear sweaters.
Right now?
Well, people listening, I mean, eventually on Wednesday when people can watch this, they'll see the sweaters. But for now, I guess you just have to describe it.
Yeah.
The sweater I'm wearing, that is.
It's about 3 sizes too big. If the top half is a navy blue, and the bottom half is a rusted car kind of orange.
Hey, you know what?
And
Does it keep me warm? Ask me a question. Does it keep me warm?
I'm not going to even...
The answer to that is yes.
It looks horrible.
Well, you know what? It's for the warmth. Have you been outside today?
Unfortunately.
Or any day of the last
Wind chill
week?
of 3 right now.
Yeah,
by the way.
I don't care how I
It's gonna
look.
get worse.
If I'm warm, then I'm not gonna question the style of
It's just so big. The sweater's like 8 sizes too tall.
Okay, when you're a big dude like myself, oftentimes when people buy you things or you buy yourself things, you kind of you want to be safe. You don't want it to be too small.
Right.
But when you hand knit that yourself...
I didn't know. Someone knit this, but not probably was in an assembly line of knitting or a child or something. What are we talking about?
On the show rundown for you today. Starting out with Illini football as always, and another loss this weekend at the hand of the Iowa Hawkeyes. We'll move along with that. We're going to talk to Jon Davis. Torrance and Steve caught up with him earlier, the senior tight end for this Illinois football team, get his thoughts on the weekend, and preview next up against Penn State. And then talk a little Illini basketball, opening weekend for them. 2-0 on that weekend as well. And then finishing out at 6:40, Kevin Fishbain of ChicagoFootball.com will be joining us to talk a little Bears football and what that win really means from the game on Sunday over Minnesota. So, starting out with Illinois football, and as Tim Beckman introed our show with a very interesting academic comment, Illinois loses to the Hawkeyes 30-14 and got a little out of hand in the fourth quarter, and just a difficult game to kind of process at the end, at least for me, in terms of you had Wes Lunt back, and the offense didn't really show me much on Saturday.
Yeah, it was... Beckman kept saying that it was a game for 3 quarters, but it kind of just felt inevitable that Iowa was going to score. I mean...
They started piling on then, but it wasn't...
Through 3 quarters, the yards were, 400 to 170.
Mm-hmm.
I mean... Iowa, it may have only been 9-7, but Iowa was going to break through sooner or later.
Yeah, I mean, it was just... I know what Beckman's talking about when he's saying that. I mean, yes, the score was close, but like you said, you break down the yardage. It's, if you're going to look at how often teams actually overcome that kind of differential when it comes to total yards and win a game, it's very rare. Even if even if the score remains close. I mean, they were just doing pretty much anything they wanted on the ground,
which we knew was coming.
Yeah, Yes.
everyone in the stadium knew was coming.
I think the only I don't know, surprise or whatever you want to call it was just that with Lunt back, the offense didn't seem to kind of click back in when Lunt was playing earlier in the season, which, coming back from an injury, obviously you kind of can expect that, but I think a lot of people probably were expecting more even in his first game back in a while.
I mean, yeah, he threw for 102 yards. He was 14 of 25. The one touchdown to Dudek was a beautiful throw.
Yeah.
But really, other than
And
that,
a great catch.
Yeah, hell of a catch. But I mean, they just didn't have the ball. I mean, it was just 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, and they really just didn't have any sustained drives until Riley came in.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think
Beckman got his 3 quarterbacks in. He
got all
could
three
check
of them
that
in.
off the list.
That's one thing. If he says everyone's playing, everyone is playing.
Earth, wind, and fire at quarterback.
Well, that's. I mean, we kind of talked about it last week, but like I was surprised. I know that he had said that he was going to get everyone in there, or kind of. I mean, if he was going, but to me, I was thinking, well, if that happens, then there's probably a problem. And that's what happened. There was a problem. He went with Riley, he went
They
with.
were down by so much.
Yeah, exactly. And then when he used Bailey, that was the way that you would use Aaron Bailey with Wes Lunt as your starting quarterback of getting that. What was it on a
third and 2?
And they were able to. I think he handed it off to Ferguson there or Young or somebody, and they got the first down. But yeah, and I mean, I think early on there were some defensive stops that were pretty impressive from Illinois' defense, but. You kind of still felt like they were going to basically.
Yeah, the floodgates were going to open eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the disappointing part, if you're Illinois, is that Iowa was able to throw the ball. They threw for 270 between the two quarterbacks. The recipe for beating Iowa is very similar to Minnesota. It's let them throw and see if they can beat you. Well, they did, and then they also ran for close to 300 on the ground. Did they hit 300? I think they did. I know it's 587 total. I think they hit exactly.
Combined, probably. Yeah, I mean, Weissman at 134, but.
I mean, Iowa did kind of whatever they wanted. Their play action game was lethal.
And Mark Weissman, this was one of the first times I'd really watched him in like a full game. That guy's strong.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's a horse.
He is a horse, and I mean, I guess he can't hold on to the ball too well, but other than that, I mean, he's also got kind of enough speed where he's not just using his strength, but it takes a couple guys to tackle him. And then I guess if you're talking about Illinois' defense, it takes a lot of guys.
And I guess what just frustrated me in this one was just in terms of going back to the offense. And well, we probably couldn't have expected too much from Wes Lunt coming back from a pretty serious injury. Probably, anytime you break something in your leg, it'll take a little bit of just time to heal, but 2, to get that confidence back out there will take a while. But it just seemed a difficult situation in terms of it seemed like the playbook was really cut short on Saturday.
I think that comes with the offensive line.
Yes, that as well. But it was just difficult to see any progress with the offense on Saturday because you had a very, Wes Lunt's not very mobile, and when he's working on 1.5 legs, he's not going to be any quicker. So it was just a tough spot for him, and like you said, with the offensive line as well. But it seemed even with that scenario with the line, it seemed like they almost utilized them a little too much in terms of the amount of screen passes, and the offense seemed to go very lateral on Saturday instead of going down the field and trying to get big gains there. It seemed like they always rely on those lateral passes and then say, okay, Ferguson, you're the playmaker, you make the next move. And it didn't seem like it really went anywhere. It was just tough to see any progress. And in a season where, if you win 2 more games, you're in a bowl game, or you lose 2 and everything blows up in his face, it's frustrating to kind of see not a lot of progress, and then you just don't know where the season kind of holds.
I think they, more than anything, I think it was the fear of the inexperience of the offensive line rather than the inexperience of the offensive line, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like they didn't give up any sacks, but that's because Lunt was holding the ball for 2 seconds.
Because he knew,
you
can't.
3-step drop, it's a screen. They didn't put the offensive line in a position where they would be tested. I think that all has to go out the window this week. It's literally a must-win. I think you have to try and test Penn State vertically, especially where's Geronimo Allison?
Yeah.
Where has he been? You need to get him involved, and obviously keep getting Dudek involved.
Real quick stat update. Iowa had a total of 587 total offense yards, and Illini had 235.
What was the rushing?
rushing, was 88 and Iowa 304.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think you're right, Steve. I think this sort of vertical game that they kind of had done when they were successful earlier in the season, like mostly, I mean, all pretty much against the non-conference opponents. There were still flashes of things there that you'd think might be able to work with the talent that they have at quarterback and wide receiver, more down the field. But if they're not going to go to that and they're going to kind of try and stick to these screens and things like that, you'd have to envision it's going to be tough to win this game against not a great opponent, but certainly a better team in Penn State.
I mean, certainly a good defense.
Yeah.
Defense that's allowing 15.5 points per game. Obviously, their offense has been anemic. Hackenberg has been an eyesore this year. But, I mean, the receivers did not help themselves. They had drops. There was a couple illegal formation penalties, I think. It was because receivers not on the line. I mean, yeah, it was just an all-around very, very poor game from the offense, especially coming off a bye week. Like, that stuff like formation penalties and some of the other things just are inexcusable.
And even it was a tough environment for Illinois. I mean, boy, oh boy, were there a lot of Iowa fans there that weekend. And granted,
about 50-50, right?
Yeah, probably has to do with it was Dad's weekend on campus, and probably fathers as alumni maybe of Iowa came down. But when Mark Weissman would make a big run or they score a touchdown, it was significantly louder than when you usually hear it at Memorial Stadium.
Did you guys see the story about the Iowa fan? I guess she was here. She was at the game on Saturday, and she had passed out, and the paramedics had come to help her, and she spit on the paramedics, and she got a citation. And I was like, it's like, come on. It seems like
keep it classy, people.
What are you
PSA
doing?
from Sam Sherman.
Yeah, keep it classy. Well, but it's like you think
big sweaters, big thoughts.
Big sweaters, big thoughts. But I think that there's sort of that rivalry definitely there with the Illinois and Iowa, and so of course you're going to see that kind of them traveling. And plus, I mean, no offense to Iowa, but this is all they have.
Okay.
They have college. Could they have college sport? They don't have anything else.
What is there to do?
They also the number one party school, I heard too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like on game day, that's the only thing, and until the next game day, that's all they can kind of do there.
I mean, yeah, it's.
But we're gonna get some nasty texts, and I can just see it.
I like how I said no offense, but it was totally offensive. No offense, but there's nothing to do in Iowa.
So real quick, before we get to the Jon Davis interview, thoughts for this upcoming weekend with Penn State coming to town?
You guys know that I've in the past defended Tim Beckman as much as I could because I kind of believe that anybody kind of deserves some time or deserves to show what they can do, but I'm honestly done with that after this game because especially coming off the bye and all that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna predict another loss, and I'm not sure that they're gonna get one more win this year.
Yeah, Penn State -6.5. I'm rolling with the Nittany Lions. I think if you're gonna have a game to break out of a funk, if you're Hackenberg, probably against Illinois.
Oh yeah.
So I think I'm gonna say 37-16. Penn State.
I mean I could go with that.
Ugly.
Yeah, I think so. And I think then going to Northwestern after that could be tough too.
So we'll have to wait and see. I'm going to probably say Illinois is a loser as well. And the fact that it's over Thanksgiving break on campus, so they're going to make fun of Block Eye for about every chance they get on the broadcast. And it'll be empty in a bad environment, let alone with a struggling Illinois football team. So we're going to jump here to the interview that Steve and Torrance did earlier with senior tight end for your Fighting Illini, Jon Davis.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Illini Drive. I'm Torrance Earl alongside my colleague Steve Bergman, and we are here with the Illini tight end, Jon Davis, the senior. So tell us how you feeling, man.
A little just disappointed, obviously. Suffered a big crucial loss last week to Iowa, but we know we got 2 weeks left in the season. And we can still go 6-6 and make a bowl game.
I guess just recap a little bit about the Iowa game last week.
Just disappointed, just in the way we played as a whole. Didn't really get much going offensively. Seemed like we had one play in every drive that kind of cost us, and we ended up playing a little too much and not scoring enough points. So those things we got to do better within the next 2 weeks.
The offense seemed like you guys really couldn't even hold on to the ball. It was 3 and outs. I guess what can we expect, improvement-wise? The offensive line will be in its second week together. Wes will be back. I mean, do you guys feel like just continuity-wise will be better this week?
We have to be better. Players on the team want to win more than anybody in the stands know, and so it starts today. Just getting our rhythm. We didn't have any type of rhythm on Saturday, and we just got to get that back.
What's the difficulty playing with just multiple quarterbacks?
The difficulty, just getting to know, because obviously the different quarterback brings a little bit different, just different feels to the game as well, different cadence, different stuff like that. But we've been rolling with those three all through spring and all through summer, so it's not that big of a challenge. The challenge for us is just protecting them and keeping those drives going like we talked about.
This week, senior day, Coach Beckman said senior week. I guess what does that mean for you and some of the other seniors around here?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Seems like kind of yesterday my class was just coming in here, but it's been a great ride, and really looking forward to it. Going out there one last time at Memorial Stadium.
But everyone I talk to says it goes by so fast.
Yeah.
You agree with that? Or?
Probably faster than you can even think of. Kind of snap with the fingers and it's really here. Guys tell you that, but you don't really believe it till you're the one that's a senior.
You got a lot of family coming, or?
Definitely. I got coaches that coached me in high school, family. It's going to be a big day.
Okay. Any tears, any emotion out of you, or maybe is that just mom?
I can't really call it right now. It's definitely going to be emotional. I don't know about the tears, though.
Okay. All right. Yeah, this weather, it's got snow out there right now. My fingers crossed it would be a snow game this weekend. I mean, what do you think about that? I mean, that was some of my best memories in high school, was playing in the snow. So.
Yeah, it definitely brings a different element to the game. Here in Illinois, it seems like it's always snowing, but we'll be ready to play in whatever. So those are one of the things that you can't really control the weather. So it should be fun.
You like winter, snow? Is anyone?
Not really a fan of the whole winter. It kind of came on us quick, I think, this year. Went from like 60 to 20 in less than a week. But
that's Illinois.
yeah, it's just one of those things you got to get used to.
Okay. So you're from Louisville. Mm-hmm. I guess pro teams, where your allegiances lie?
Growing up, I kind of lived kind of all over. Big fan of the Kansas City Chiefs. Hoping for their success, but I'm just a fan of the game and love to watch it.
Yeah, Chiefs had they win this week.
Yeah, they won a good game. Beat the Seahawks, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. I was gonna say I got Charles on my fantasy team, so I won on that one. A lot of guys talked, that this Iowa game this past week was kind of a must-win. You feel the same way about this week? It's another must-win kind of situation.
It is a must-win. Obviously, you can't change the past, so. The only thing we can do is improve our record to 6-6, 5-6 this week, and then 6-6 the next week. So going forward and taking each day at a time, each play, each practice, and knowing that this is a very big game for our program.
When you have a game that's considered a must-win and then you don't win, I guess, how do you come back to that this week?
Just like I said, you can't really change the past. Can't go back. Got to learn from your mistakes and realize what you could have done in that game to not been unsuccessful, and try to work on those things to win this next week coming up.
Going off that, as far as you as a person, what do you do? You more of a laid-back type guy who might not show emotion during senior day, might not have tears in his eyes, but just tell us a little bit about what you do outside of football.
Definitely not as outspoken as some of the guys, but in that locker room, guys definitely know I'm there for them. I've already told people this, and you can call me, I'm the best video gamer on the team. So whenever they want to come over and play video games, I'm always down for a challenge. Just because I know when they leave, they'll be going. I'll be victorious, and they won't. So I'm just there for the guys in the locker room, and I'm definitely gonna miss them.
What system you have?
I got Xbox One.
Okay. What type of games you be playing?
Right now, my main focus has really been FIFA. I just can't get off it. On the 360, I used to play 2K, Madden, and Call of Duty.
Who's your 2K team?
My 2K team, I kind of bounce around a lot. I think going forward, I've been playing with the Timberwolves a lot lately.
Timberwolves.
Yeah.
Kevin Love, go.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't really know what I'm going to do this year, but last year was the T-Wolves.
Okay. At least, like, if you would have said, like, Golden State, I would have get out. Like, I mean.
Do you make a creative play on there?
I have before. My guy was pretty good. I know he was dunking from the free throw line. That was during the summer. Don't really have much time to play anymore, though.
You made Jon Davis on there?
Yeah.
And that just about wraps things up. Thanks, Jon.
No problem.
That's Jon Davis, senior tight end for the Fighting Illini. Our thanks to Stephen Torrance for getting that interview. We're going to head to a quick commercial break here, then shift gears and talk Illinois basketball. You're listening to Illini Drive on Champaign's Alternative, WPGU 107.1.
This is Stephen Bartow. If you want all the latest and greatest in sports, check out the Illini Draft, WPGU 107.1.
They did some good things, but the biggest thing for us that I was looking for in the second half was to be a little bit more competitive, a little bit more aggressive, a little bit nastier.
Welcome back into Illini Drive, your home on the way home for Illini Sports. Follow us on Twitter at Illini Drive. Text line up as well, 217-337-1071. You just heard the voice there of Illinois head coach John Gross, and we shift gears to Illinois basketball. Illinois winners over the weekend over Georgia Southern and Coppin State, starting off the non-conference slate of games. And I guess we'll just start off. Overall impressions. What do we think of the early basketball season?
I like how you said nasty, like Coach Popovich.
I want some nasty.
Yeah. Never seems like satisfied.
Who, Gross?
Ever.
Well, I think that's what you want to see out of a coach. Well, like as long as
I think he was pretty satisfied after this past game.
The best part about this weekend was that I learned of Coppin State's existence and where they're located.
Which is?
Maryland,
Baltimore.
All right.
So yeah, he was even forgetting.
Yeah.
Well, it's that part of the season where you kind of start learning about schools that you may have never heard before.
where you pay teams to just kick the snot out of them.
Yeah, and Illinois did that for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, wow. Like I think that the biggest takeaway I had was that it seemed like in what the players were saying after the game, it was nice that they acknowledged that 114's good, but more importantly, the defense seemed to really hold up and put out an impressive outing, which in these games I think is a bigger takeaway.
Yeah, they held them, I think, 30% from the field,
under
30%. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously we saw the two extremes of Illinois basketball. Just the lackadaisical version was on Friday, and then on Sunday, they may not shoot like that again all year. Shooting close to 60%, putting up 114 points, 15 made threes. I'm not sure we're going to see that again, but it is encouraging to see, Aaron Cosby had his second straight game of really good production. I think he hit 4 threes, and then Starks was finally able to get going. We saw him the past 2 games would kind of struggle from the field. He had a little bit of a heat check stretch there.
Cosby hit 5.
Yeah. So I mean, I think they're going to have some options, and I really like Nunn and Black 1 and 2 off the bench. I really think kind of any way you cut it, you're going to have some firepower coming off the bench, which is something this team did not have at all last year.
Do you think it's better if Nunn come off the bench as a 6-man as opposed to starting? Because some people ask if he should start over Cosby.
I think it depends, but I think, regardless, you're going to have, a guy that can score in bunches coming off your bench. I'm not sure, whether you start or not necessarily matters. I think Nunn will play in crunch time and close games just because he's a very good defender and then also is obviously, very talented offensively. I think he's more of a two-way player probably than Cosby is.
And sorry, I was just gonna say, I mean, you can't forget the fact that Cosby does have. I know that Nunn has his freshman season under his belt, but Cosby's got 2 years under his belt. At a pretty in a good conference. And so he's got that experience, and that's kind of the edge that I guess he'd have over Nunn. But I think that people that really haven't seen exactly how consistent Cosby's going to be. Of course, his numbers from Seton Hall will show that he's been pretty consistent, but who knows how that'll transfer over. And if he can be, the guy that he's kind of shown to be in the first couple games, it's really hard to take away from these. But if he can be, then I think that shooting and that consistency would kind of give the edge of starting. But I really don't think, Steve, like you said, that it's going to matter too much about who's going to start the game.
And looking at the threes down the line, just real quick, Cosby 5 of 7, Starks 4 of 6 for his 1,000 career points, 9 3 for 7. So you talked about the firepower off that bench, and I think it's definitely much better than it was, and it's good to have those kind of shooters. But what worries me, and what I said last week as well, is the fact of the reliance on the three-point shot. And you have a night like they did the other night. It's the first time they scored 100 points in over 10 years. But then if you have a night that goes cold, and that's the only way your offense is clicking, that could be a spell for disaster here, that reliance. And I think we've seen that the past couple of years where you have a guy, when you had Richardson and Paul and even Tyler Griffey, they never really used the big men enough. And even Griffey, as a big guy, stepped out a lot behind the arc. And so I think if you're this team this year with a guy like LaRon Black that can have a big presence down low along with if Finke really plays, but between Black and a guy like Nana Agwu down there, you really got to utilize them offensively. Because defensively, they should be fine. But offensively, you have to have that balance, and I think that starts with getting those big guys involved.
And Finke's got a red shirt.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Gross pretty much said that's the plan as of right now. But I'm going to preemptively strike on some Illini fans right now because there's one thing we haven't talked about is Egwu had 2 straight games of less than 6 points and less than 2 rebounds.
Thank you. I was about to mention that.
He's going to be fine.
Yeah.
He's probably going to win Big Ten Defensive Player of the
Well,
Year.
that's the thing. It's
relax, people.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, I always like to look on Twitter and just see what the fans are sort of talking about and everything. And some people that were sort of criticizing Agwu of like, where's the scoring? Where's the scoring? Like you said, his defensive presence is probably more valuable on the Illini than anyone is to their team in the rest of the Big Ten. I mean, when he's on the court compared to when he's off the court, and as long as he can kind of stay out of that foul trouble that he's shown in past years to kind of do, he's going to be huge. I mean, he's just huge for Illinois. And in terms of the scoring, I think that interior is going to be a little bit of a problem. Whereas the shooting this season is going to be a whole lot stronger than it was. But I agree. I think that it is one of those things early on that people are going to try. It's one of these storylines that they're going to try to track, but there's not really anything there.
And if he doesn't have any points against Brown, then the whole campus will explode. Austin Peay first, but you can't lose to those Ivy Leagues like that.
No.
Or ever. Yeah.
We also didn't mention Jalen Tate too, and I know he's one of those players that not gonna show up so much on the stat sheet, but the way he was pushing that ball, man, coming off the bench for Starks, that was something Gross alluded to during the press conference too. Just him pushing that tempo, making smart decisions. And against Coppin State, he has 7 assists and no turnovers. That's impressive.
I mean, that's exactly what you want.
Yep.
Just a guy off the bench, playing maestro out there because he can't make anything outside of a layup. So he better be passing and he better not be turning the ball over.
And he beefed up a little bit too. He got a little bigger.
Yeah, I mean, he got bullied last year in the Big Ten. He got targeted. So, I mean, they're going to need somebody that can play the one that can at least hold their own defensively. And hopefully he's beefed up enough that he'll be able to do that.
Well, I mean, the reason his hopeful sort of emergence for them kind of comes through is because if he can't compete in the Big Ten, or he kind of looks like he did last year, and kind of teams can kind of, like you said, pick on him, then Illinois has one point guard in Starks, and I know that they could try people there, but at the end of the day, you need that guy who can kind of back up and go in and, as they say, won't lose the game.
And a 5'9" guard may get bullied a little more than the 6'3" Jalen Tate.
Yeah, so he's kind of a pretty important role for them this year, just to kind of be able to come in and the 7 assists to no turnovers is huge.
Mm-hmm. I think, kind of going back to your point, Joey, I think the reason maybe I'm not as worried about the reliance on the 3 is I feel like this is the best group of shooters that Gross has had.
Yeah.
Like when you don't have good shooters, their bad nights are a lot more frequent. But when you have a group like Starks, Cosby, Nunn, Rice has shown an improved 3-point shot, I think, there's going to be less of those nights when you're, 2 for 18 midway through the second half.
There's like enough experienced shooters on the team where even cold nights it's going to be all relative, where their cold nights are still going to be, decent, and some of their shots will go down.
Even Malcolm Hill was a good shooter in high school. We didn't see it last year. He was like 20-something% from 3, but He looked really good.
Yeah.
Everyone looked good on Sunday, obviously. But, I mean, he had pulled down 9 boards, 13 points.
Latulip scored like 7?
A new record.
He's coming at
yeah.
me.
Well, that's the thing. If like Mike Latulip scores 7, then like you are up by that game. That's the only game that you're gonna see that.
Yeah.
Well, I still have my the Quincy Hawks game for the press. They have the posters in the room, and they have the big Cameron List Quincy Hawks exhibition poster. That is
He
now
got
up
in.
the room.
He got in.
As
Yeah.
soon as Cameron List touched the ball, he passed it like a hot potato.
Yeah.
He threw that ball.
It's like one of those like where you get on the court like for in D1 or whatever and anything in college basketball, and you're just like, whoop, nope.
Jackie Moon play. I don't want it. You take it. I don't want it. You take it.
You realize like, oh, everyone's a lot bigger than high
It's
school.
a lot bigger than your high school conference.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So we'll just have to keep dissecting this here. And I like what you said, Steve, just about, and Torrance too, about Jalen Tate in terms of that's exactly what you have to see in these games. And when you play a team like Coppin State, you're supposed to beat them. Maybe not by 58, but you're supposed to really try everything in that game. And I think that's what we've been seeing. And, we like what we see from LeRon Black. Will I continue when you hit Big Ten play? You hope so. It may not be the same numbers where he puts up 18, but it's a good start. And I think it's good to see that confidence, too, and how that rotation kind of will play out. And the fact that last year it just seemed like a lot on Rayvonte Rice's plate. And I think now he's got a lot more options to pass off to in that offense to see really what the whole thing's capable of, because there were a lot of times last year where shot clock goes down below 10, it's just Rice, and nothing else could really work for you on offense. And now you got a lot of options. And what'll be interesting to see as well is with this point guard situation, if Tate could continue something from what he did last weekend, but with Starks, I wonder if Starks doesn't play up to the potential he's supposed to be if you see a guy like Rayvonte Rice taking up the floor. And we talked a little bit about this last week, but it just may be a good option, even though he may not be a pass-first kind of ball handler or not even close.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, I think that what I'm sort of expecting to happen early in the season, at least, and when they start going up against tougher competition, is that the idea is nice that Ray won't have to be the guy this year. But I think what's going to happen is until this team kind of grows a little bit more together, he's going to be that guy. I mean, it's kind of one of those things where you watch a game like against Coppin State and you think, oh wow, well this, even if obviously not going to play this well the whole season, but if they can just show flashes, then they're going to be pretty good. But it's still a young team. They're still kind of trying to grow together, and I think until that happens, people are going to realize Ray is kind of the guy that they're going to need to go to, and will have to step up when they go down.
And I think early in the year, I mean, why not try him at point guard just to see what you have? I mean, you did this. Brandon Paul played point guard, but he's a shooting guard all the way. He's just out of necessity. I mean, why not? Maybe he's very turnover prone and can't run the offense in practice. Maybe, but against these teams, like.
I was just gonna say the last time that we went in with this thought, it was with Aaron Bailey, and maybe let's just see what Aaron Bailey's got. And then you
deserve to see it.
There is a reason that Aaron Bailey does not play a starting quarterback.
Yeah, kind of all the clamoring for Aaron Bailey kind of went away after that Ohio State game.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't think you're wrong. I think you gotta see at least, and the nice thing with college basketball as opposed to football is you can try those things out earlier in the year, and if they don't work, then abandon them. But if they do, then you kind of can maybe catch something good.
One thing I thought was interesting was against on Sunday, before the under 16, Gross went immediately to 4 subs, and this was less than 4 minutes into the game. It was Tate, Tate, Nunn, Black, and Colbert off the bench under 4 minutes. Just got a whole new group in there. I don't know if, obviously we probably won't see that, when the games start actually mattering, but it is interesting that Gross is trying to run so many guys so early to me.
Well, I mean, it's the thing where if they have that, you can talk about depth all day, but if your bench players are going to come off and not be ready to go out there or not, have the game experience, then it's kind of pointless because you could have a bunch of guys on the bench who could do something, but I think he's trying to get them in there, just see what he has and see how ready they are, kind of going into tougher competition of confidence levels and such.
Another thing that surprised me was it's been Colbert. This is the first center off the bench.
That's what I was going to ask, because I unfortunately wasn't able to catch couple of the games.
Neither was Sam. Weird.
Oh yeah. No, I wasn't.
Sam had better excuses.
Yeah,
He was at
I saw Stevie Wonder. Well, that was Friday, but yeah, no, I guess because you were there, Steve. Tell us about Austin.
Well, yeah, like what have
Austin
we
Culver.
seen in terms of? I mean, I saw in the Quincy game, I saw a little bit of him, but it seems like the development just hasn't hit yet, and I think this is the perfect opportunity for him to do that, and especially with the rotations you're talking about. When you see a guy like Colbert come off the bench and the opportunity he has, he's got to take advantage of it, show something.
I mean, he's a raw prospect still, obviously. I mean, the thing he's like good at is being really tall and really long and athletic for his size. Like, that's what he's good at. He took a 3. I don't think we'll see that again because it was not close. But I mean, him and Cameron Liss were the only guys that didn't score on Sunday. Like, he's not going to give you much offensively. What you hope is that he can protect the rim with the second unit and not do stupid things.
Well, he tried to score. Cameron Liss didn't want to score.
Well, I think my boy Cameron Liss is going to get on the score sheet. I'm putting it down.
You think so?
I think he will.
Before he won't play this season?
Well, at some point this season, he will score. What kind of odds can I get on that?
Well, I'm just thinking, are you talking about like a blowout, like when Illinois is losing?
He will score this season. He will not get shut out.
I like that.
Has he not scored?
Not in a real game.
In exhibition, did he put up?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
He the leading scorer in practice.
I like how we've talked more about Cameron Liss than like a lot of guys on the team.
Turn to O'Toole. We'll see.
Yeah.
So got to hit a break here. Good discussion there, and we'll see where Illinois basketball goes. They take on Austin Peavy, who just seems like
P.
It's just P.
Oh, P.
Yeah.
No V.
Yeah.
And then
Why did I think it was V?
Because this is their go-to chant.
Yeah.
Let's go P.
That's not a joke. That's actually true.
Seriously?
No. No, it's true.
It's my job.
Okay.
No, but he's right. It is. That's just what they say, and it seems like one of those things that you say, "Oh, I bet you guys," and they go, "No, we do." That's their chant.
I think they own it. Like,
cool.
They realize that it sounds ridiculous, and they own it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Respect for them.
So they play that team over up north, whatever
What team,
whatever
Joey?
you want to call it this week.
Austin what?
Austin P.
Yep.
You guys are horrible.
Sam's reduced to a 5-year-old right
Yep,
now.
we're going to hit a break here. We'll come back, talk a little Bears football with Kevin Fishbain of ChicagoFootball.com. You're listening to Illini Drive on Champaign's Alternative WPGU 107.1.
Hey, this is Matt Spiegel from 670 The Score. You're listening to Illini Drive on WPGU 107.1, Mondays at 6.
And welcome back into Illini Drive. This is your home on the way home for Illini Sports. Every Monday at 6, we're going to get to Kevin Fishbain shortly. Just waiting to get confirmation that he's on the phone line and likes us for being who we are.
The good news is that we're all Bears experts here, so we can all talk.
Always.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Could we talk a little?
We can start talking.
Right,
So Bears fall 21-13. I'm sorry, Bears win. I'm so used
You're
to
just on
saying
the
that.
default setting of
We
Bears
can
lost,
pretend
we're
that they lost. Who cares?
Bears won this weekend 21-13 over the ever dangerous Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah. What was
do we
that
think?
like? I don't know. We saw, again, the two halves of Jay Cutler. The first half, it was like, wow, why isn't this Jay Cutler around all the time? And then the second half, he starts throwing off his back foot.
Yeah. Just goes back into old habits.
So now that we think we're experts, we're going to bring in the real expert, Kevin Fishbain from ChicagoFootball.com. Follow him on Twitter at KFishbain. Kevin, how are you?
I'm doing well, guys. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thanks for joining us today. And I guess just starting off here, as we talked a little bit before you jumped on, Bears winners this weekend, 21-13. What do you make of this game for the Bears?
Yeah, it was good because they went down early and showed some resolve in coming back to win. It was good because the offense kind of got back on track in terms of yards gained, and it was good because the defense had maybe its best performance since the Atlanta game, and one of its better performances really under Mel Tucker. However, there were still a lot of mistakes. You look at the fact that the offense only scored 21 points. The special teams still has a lot of issues to sort out, and the defense at the end, they still get up a couple big plays, and they had to get an interception on a bad throw by Teddy Bridgewater to clinch the victory. So, look, they needed the win. They need to get back on track, and they got to hope it can be a confidence booster heading into this next game against Lovie Smith and the Bucs.
Kevin, I think a lot of people in Chicago want Trestman out of town. They want, they don't know what to think about Cutler. A lot of people probably are not happy with Cutler and want to see, just this team kind of go in a lot of different directions. So, I mean, realistically, do you think that this win can kind of change anything, at least as of now, for both Trestman and Cutler?
Well, I think, for one thing, look, Jay Cutler had the 2 bad interceptions, obviously, but overall he played a very good game. And he played the type of game that you can see why they gave him the contract, because this was the offense that the Bears and Phil Emery, Mark Trestman expected all season long. It just took, until this game to really see it in full force, and they can kind of thank the Vikings defense a little bit for that as well. When it comes to Mark Trestman, I think this does help his job security a little bit to see his defense and some of these veterans players really respond and play well after 2 just awful games. You could have, easily seen this team just continue to wallow and maybe not play hard for him, but they did. They played hard, and it's just one game, but gets them started going into next week. I think we'll learn a little bit more and know a little bit more about this team at this time next Monday.
And with the game, I mean, I guess I'm pretty far off the Bears train for this whole season, but it was just disappointing again for me to see that, they had a chance to kind of really put Minnesota away, and, they had some mistakes in that second half, and, suddenly Minnesota's driving for the game-tying touchdown late in the game. I mean, that's got to be a concern that, Minnesota's not a great team, especially offensively. I'm not impressed by Bridgewater very much at all. I mean, they just can't seem to get out of their own way sometimes. So do you see that as well? Do you agree with that? Or?
Yeah, the offensive penalties really have been an issue this year that they didn't have last year. They have 15 false starts and only had 9 all of last season. You look at the offensive pass interference penalties they have. I think they have 4, and they only had 1 last season. So, there are mistakes that they shouldn't be making that's stalling the offense. And, the red zone struggles, not taking advantage of some time at the end of the first half. There are a lot of things that just still aren't coming together for the team. Look, they have not played 4 good quarters of offensive football yet this season. They played a great fourth quarter against the 49ers. They played a great first quarter against the Jets. They played a great third quarter against the Falcons, and they played a good second quarter against the Vikings. And that gets them a couple wins, but that's why they're likely not going to make the playoffs. And, maybe they can get away with that again next week against Tampa when they go to Detroit and when they host New Orleans and Dallas. They got put together more than 1-2 quarters of good offense, defense, special teams, complementary football, as Mark Trestman likes to call it.
You're listening to Illini Drive here on WPGU 107.1, talking with Kevin Fishbain of ChicagoFootball.com.
And yeah, you said they haven't put together a complete game offensively. I mean, is that Trestman to blame, or is that Cutler? I mean, I know fans like to point the blame at someone, but I think at a certain point it has to fall back to Trestman, because the offense is what he's known for and what he was kind of bringing to the table when they hired him.
Yeah, I think Trestman deserves a lot of that, and he would probably be the first to tell you that he should be accountable for the fact that the offense hasn't played well. I think coming into the season, one narrative was how good can this offense be, and the thought process for those of us who cover the team was, yes, defenses have a year of tape that they can kind of use to prepare for Mark Trestman, but Mark Trestman's smart enough and innovative enough that he's going to be able to adapt faster, and that wasn't the case. And you saw teams with their zone defenses really give the Bears offense fits, and you saw games when they probably should have run the ball more. Now, the one excuse you can use is the offensive line's been really, out of sorts in terms of personnel. They've actually played okay, having to deal with so many injuries. Another excuse you can use is Marshall and Jeffrey were banged up earlier in the season. But look, Jay Carr's made some of the same mistakes that he made, in his entire career. So those are still there. As we talked about with Trestman, some of the play calling issues. So look, when your offense doesn't play well, it falls on the play caller and it falls on the quarterback. So I think those 2 guys are certainly going to take the most blame.
Looking at next week with Lovey and Tampa, have you gotten a sense, like just from maybe talking to the players, of is this a game that they, obviously they're going to say they want to win every game, and that's just how, the obvious thing. But do you get the sense that they're a little bit maybe more amped up for this one?
Not yet. Our first glimpse was talking to Brandon Marshall today. Now, Marshall was only with Lovey for, I believe, a year or 2, and he didn't want to really talk about it. I think you'll get a little more from Lance Briggs when he talks to the media on Wednesday. He's certainly somebody who's been very open about how much he loved playing for Lovie Smith, so I imagine he'll have some things to say. And it was a good sign to see him really flying around the defense a little bit that we hadn't seen yet, and I'm curious if he wants to, if he has that same effort level and production against his former coach. But remember, guys, this is a team, there's not a lot of Lovie holdovers. You got Robbie Gould, Garza, Forte, Cutler, Tim Jennings, but really there's so many new faces on this team in the starting lineup. The most notable guy probably would have been Charles Tillman, and he's on injured reserve. So I think that the storyline loses its luster a little bit because of that. Also because of the fact that, frankly, both teams are bad. The Bucs are awful, and the Bears have been bad this season. So, you lose that as well. But it's still going to be something we talk about. We'll get to hear from Lovie Smith on Wednesday morning in a conference call. We'll hear from Josh McCown as well. And actually, in terms of playing somebody that you're familiar with, Josh McCown's almost a more interesting story because, almost everybody on this team was impacted by having Josh McCown here last season.
And I guess just going off the records you mentioned there, just with the Bucs being not as good as, many Bucs fans probably would have hoped. I guess just looking, the Minnesota game for the Bears, they win there. Then looking at Tampa, as a Bears fan or even as media, what can you take away from this game? What can you hold as stock from these two games? Just because these are teams you're supposed to beat, you look good doing it, but in reality, when push comes to shove, a lot of times this year, the offense hasn't lived up to anything close to what it should have been on paper.
Yeah, I think you have to be in a win-is-a-win mentality. This is a Bears team that has lost 3 games this year. It should have won. The game against Buffalo, the game in Carolina, and then the game against Miami. Now, Miami's a much better team, and Buffalo, too, to their credit. Miami and Buffalo are playing pretty well relative to what people thought, but those were games the Bears were favored. So, you got to take care of business, and the Bears have a long way to go to try to even put themselves miraculously in the playoff hunt. Part of getting there is 1 week at a time and beating teams you're supposed to beat, and that starts with Tampa this week. And if they can if they can be in Detroit with a 5-6 record, an opportunity to get to 500 against a division rival on Thanksgiving, that's a good situation for them, all things considered, and they kind of work from there. But look, you just got to get your wins when you can, when you're a team that's really struggled to get them, and they haven't been pretty. The games that they've won, as we talked about, haven't really been 4 quarters of good play, but they have to find a way to go ahead and beat Tampa. And I tell you guys this, when they lost the Packers, they turned themselves into a national joke, an embarrassment to the franchise. If they lose to Lovie Smith and Josh McCown on Sunday, that's your low point. I mean, regardless of what happens the rest of the season, regardless of how many points they put up or give up against Tampa, you lose to the man that you fired. You lose to the quarterback that you chose not to re-sign because you put $122 million in Jay Cutler. That is your low point. And you got to hope the Bears are kind of aware of that so they can make sure they get the victory.
Well, I think it'd be hard to disagree with that being a even bigger sort of laughing point than the Green Bay loss. But well, Kevin, I just kind of going off from the Bears for a second. I just was wondering if you've gotten over the excitement of your Wildcats win this weekend.
It's been fun, actually. Right before you guys called, I had just finished watching a 24-minute loop of all the highlights on my phone. So yeah, still kind of reveling in that one. But you know what? I am totally rooting for an Illinois victory this week. I want 2 5-7 teams, or excuse me, 5-6 teams meeting in Evanston, not only playing for Abraham Lincoln's hat, but they're playing for the most mediocre team in the state of Illinois to get over to a bowl game. So that could add a little more fun to a matchup that hasn't been too fun the past few years.
I mean, Northwestern's been making it very confusing kind of to Illinois fans and the media here, kind of making it think like this last game of how winnable it really is, because like 1 week they're getting blown out and the next week they're somehow beating Notre Dame, and it's like, is this a game that Illinois can win or not? So, but certainly that's got to be a fun win for Northwestern fans.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was a memorable one. I was excited to be there. I've never been to South Bend myself. So it was fun. It's been a terrible, terrible season, and it doesn't really take away some of the awful things that I've seen from Northwestern really this season and starting every game after the Ohio State game last season. So it'd be cool if they can salvage and get 2 more wins, get to a bowl game. You hope to see that for the seniors.
Kevin Fishbain from ChicagoFootball.com. And Kevin, we appreciate the time and giving us a little Bears insight and talking about that team up north that Tim Beckman will refuse to say until he probably is gone at the end of this season.
All right. Well, from what I read today, Tim Beckman needs to take a closer look at the schedule he's played this year before he starts talking about that. But thanks for having me on, guys, and take care.
Thanks, Kevin. That's Kevin Fishbain of ChicagoFootball.com. Follow him on Twitter at KFishbain. So I know we want to try to do Badass of the Week, but we can still do 2 minutes of more Bears talk if we'd like to, because I know we were jumping on the phone there, but obviously the crew here has a bunch of opinions on this game.
Many opinions.
I honestly don't have any opinion about it. I don't think it means anything.
Well, I mean, one thing I learned is that, this is not so much Bears as it is Vikings, but Teddy Bridgewater is not a very good quarterback yet.
No.
Look at all these rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah.
It's reality again.
Is any team happy with their rookie quarterback?
No. I mean,
I'd say the closest is Oakland, and you're winless. That's how
right,
it
because
is.
you look like a Russell Wilson or an Andrew Luck, and they couldn't fire.
You look at Oakland, and that's actually something kind of funny to me that, it's kind of about perspective. The Bears are not good this season, but the fact that there are clear worse teams than the Bears in the NFL, you can point to their opponent this weekend, and then also, a team like Oakland. I know it's a major city, a big city like Chicago, big market, so people are obviously going to freak out about the Bears, but there are worse teams. So as bad as it ever seems that the Bears are getting.
We're not at the bottom of the totem pole.
But yeah.
Pretty damn close.
But yeah, so and Teddy Bridgewater, I guess, he had been okay this year, sort of I don't know. He'd been fine, but seeing him against the Bears and all the concerns I had about him sort of doing some things went away quickly when I saw him play for a couple minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't super high on him when he got drafted, but I mean, he's not been great. I mean, I guess it's better than the two-headed monster of Castle and Christian Ponder.
Yeah.
They just lost all their juice.
It's not good.
No, and I disagree a bit with the fact that it means nothing. I think it means, and this is where you have to hear me out for a second. But I think that for the fans, it means something, and I know that that's not that doesn't necessarily mean anything for Trestman or Cutler or anybody on the Bears. But I think that the city of Chicago needed something because just being honest, guys, Chicago or just Illinois when the Bears are. Not the University of Illinois, but the state of Illinois, when the Bears are losing, it's depressing. I mean, it really is. Bears fans are it's a very emotional group of people, like many football fans, but you see it a lot with Bears, and it's a team that had pretty high expectations going into the season and didn't live up to those at all. So I think that it was an important win. And I'm not going to say program changing like that Minnesota homecoming win, but I think it was an important win. For the fan base, just to kind of have something to root for the rest of this. Because if you lose to Minnesota, then you can't be like, well, if they beat the Bucs, and then they're going to play the Lions on Thanksgiving, and then even giving the opportunity of something to watch on Thanksgiving makes it somewhat important.
Okay, yeah, so you're holding on to this notion that this season can still be salvaged.
No, I'm not. That's not me. I'm saying for
that's
people.
The sweater talking.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying that I think that there's a lot of people who needed this win to give them something to at least hold on to a little bit going forward.
You don't want the idea of a good draft pick to hold on to?
It's a nice touch.
No, because they're not. It's not going to be
tank for Jameis.
No,
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I would say the one thing I can take away from it is that for all the reports we've had the last couple of weeks when they've got blown out 50-plus point games with New England and Green Bay, I think what you saw yesterday, no matter if they win out or they lose everything beyond this, I think it showed that the team actually still wants to play and wants to play for Trestman. Mm-hmm. And I think that's big. No matter, they may not make the playoffs, they may fire everyone at the end of the year, who knows. But I think that was a big game in terms of telling the media, telling the fans, as players saying, we still believe in our system, believe in our coach. And even though they didn't look great, they lived up to a little bit of the potential they were supposed to just by the nature of how they played yesterday, using the height advantages, seeing an offense actually work. Defensively, had some good stops. I mean, Minnesota was bad. I'm not going to, take that away.
But their defense is like okay, and so I think that and at the Bears, kind of the offense as they should, did some things. But I think against the Minnesota defense, which isn't bad, it was sort of something to take away.
Quick poll of everyone here: who gets fired first, Trestman or Beckman?
Ooh,
both last name.
Well,
man.
Beckman.
Both got
Beckman
men.
because the season ends first.
Well, there's a better chance that Trestman keeps his job even if things are bad than I think Beckman.
Right, I think Beckman doesn't make a bowl game, he's gone.
Because this is the first. I mean, this is the first season that people have had these like legitimate concerns. I mean, it's his second season, but like this is the first time that people have been like worried about Trestman going forward. Beckman, like it seems like since he stepped on campus,
Since he started talking about that lasagna.
We have to try it, right?
I want
That's all I want. Even
Mrs.
You know what?
Beckman lasagna.
If he goes,
You know what?
that's what we get.
we gotta get Beckman to give the Illini Drive staffers.
Tim,
some,
I know you're listening. I know you're out there.
If you are listening, number one, anything I said that would make you not want to give us lasagna, you can forget about it. Otherwise, just give us lasagna.
So on that note, we're going to have to close the show here. Hour runs quickly, and maybe -4 degrees, so it makes it even more fun on the walk home. So this has been Illini Drive on Champaign's Alternative WPGU 1071. We thank Jon Davis for catching up with Stephen Torrent earlier in the day, getting that football segment in. Kevin Fishbain from ChicagoFootball.com. Again, follow him at KFishbain. Urbana Public Television, we thank you, and they'll be re-airing us on Wednesday at 9 p.m. You can catch the show as well, podcasted and uploaded on YouTube, as well as on the Daily Illini website. Quickly, I'm going to say maybe Tuesday night. We'll try to get that for you then. For Torrance Sorrell, Jeff Omer, Steve Bourbon, Sam Sherman, I'm Joey Gelman. And remember, we still have tickets to give away. I forgot. We keep forgetting to promote that. Tickets to give away. Illinois basketball's home this weekend. Illinois football's home this weekend. So right after I sign off, because for some reason you guys call in while I'm still talking, and then when we pick up the phone, you run away. So right when I'm done on the air, when you hear some fun alternative music from WPGU 1071, that's when you call. We have football tickets and basketball tickets to give away for this weekend.
For the Austin Peay game?
Yes.
Yeah, you do not want to miss that game.
Don't miss it.
Don't miss it. Must-see TV or must-see be in your seat. Yeah.
Must-see PTV.
There you go. So, this is your home on the way home for Illini Sports. And, a reminder, we will not be on next week. So, we will be back on December 1st. So, mark your calendars for the return.
You can still tune in and just pretend like we're talking.
Or catch one of the podcasts and rewatch us because you miss us. So, we will be back December 1st on the air. So, thanks to everyone involved. You're listening to Illini Drive on Champaign's Alternative, WPGU 1071.